कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति विकास स्वामी निधि नामने नमः कृष्ण पादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निधि नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. So we'll continue with our attempts to establish the Srimad Bhagavatam as the topmost pramana, topmost authority. And this is following in the footsteps of our predecessor acharyas, especially with regards to Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. So what did we see yesterday? What were the topics that were covered yesterday? I want everyone to say something. It's got to be a little bit of a dialogue here, not just sit like that.
The 10 types of pramanas.
We saw the 10 types of pramanas.
We saw how they were either, you could really classify them as just 3.
Okay, what did we first see before all of this?
The purpose of pramana.
I'd like the devotees to sit in a manner that I can see everyone's face. Like at least I can see Ananda's face right now. So.
You talked about the Tattva Sandarbha.
Sorry?
Tattva Sandarbha and Jiva Goswami, and you summarized it.
Okay, but yeah, so I gave a little bit of background as to why we're doing this seminar. That this has been touched upon by Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha and later elaborated upon by devotees after that. Okay, then?
The process, you talked about the process of acquiring knowledge.
Okay,
That was later on.
before that.
The purpose of pramana.
What is pramana? We defined what pramana was.
A means to ascertain the truth.
Yes, to ascertain the truth. We gave the English definition of epistemology and then we saw the meaning of pramana. Okay, so then we came to how many types of, let's look over here. So then we came to, what did we come after this?
Types of evidences.
Yeah, so then we just came to the types of evidences that were 10. So what are the 10? Oops.
Hava.
Abhava. Abhava means non-existence of an object. Sambhava means inclusion. Cheshta by gesture. Upamana by analogies. Ardhapati by conjecture from an otherwise unexplainable situation. And Arsha. Arsha is authority of the sages. So we saw examples for all of these. And of this, so which is, we classified them according to Pratyaksa, Anumana and Shabda. Which is Shabda of these? Arsha. What kind of Shabda is it? Paurushaya. Okay. So we classify them. Then, what are the types of evidences accepted by the Vaishnavas? Pratyaksha, Anumana, Aitihya and Shabda. Okay. And what is the speciality of Shabda here? It's transcendental, it's Apaurushaya. Okay. Alright. So then we saw some quotes about how Pratyaksha, Anumana and Shabda can be used to Pratyaksha, Anumana and Aitiha can be used for
To show Shabda is like the right thing.
That's it. That is, there are that Pratyaksa, Anumana and Aitihya has validity as long as it is supported by Shabda. Okay. Huh?
11, 28, 19.
Pratyaksh. Sorry.
9.
Pratyaksha Anumana Shabda. Yeah. What verse? This one. Yeah, this is 11.28.9.
Isn't there like also
So-
another verse with the same? There's another verse also.
Probably, I just pulled this one up. All right. Okay. So what is the problem with the pramanas?
Other than Shabda, all of them are Paurashaya.
No.
4 defects.
All of them. Because they are
They're-
Paurashaya, therefore have 4.
No. Only that which is Shabda is classified as Paurashaya and Apaurashaya. As far as Pratyaksha, Paurashaya means sound that comes from conditioned soul. But Pratyaksha is what knowledge you're gaining from by your senses. So Paurashaya, Apaurashaya is only for Shabda. All right? And so what did we just say? That there are 4 defects in all the 9 types of pramanas. What are the 4 defects? Brahma. What is Brahma? Tendency to commit mistakes. Tendency to make mistakes. Example?
Like Brahma says
Snake for a rope.
You mistake a snake for a rope. Okay. What example does Prabhupada give in the Ishopanishad? Gandhi. Prabhupada gives Gandhi, Kennedy.
JFK.
Yeah. So he gives these examples. Okay. What is the next defect? Pramada. What is pramada? To be illusioned or to be inattentive. Examples?
I am Mr. John. I am very rich.
Where this body is the greatest illusion. There are many other types of illusions also. Mistake a mirage for something. We mistake so many things for something else. Right? So there's the illusion. Or the illusion that I am happy in this material world. That's another type of illusion. So this is all pramada. Liberated souls are not affected. Liberated souls do not think they can be happy in this material world trying to enjoy their senses. That type of illusion does not exist among the associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, what is the next defect? Vipralipsa. What is Vipralipsa? Tendency to cheat. What's the example Prabhupada gives in the Ishopanishad? Yeah, Darwin's theory. Or everyone keeps proposing their theory. Prabhupada says, this is my opinion. I think like this. It is maybe like this. It is like this. So in this way, people are involved in cheating. So the tendency to cheat. Then, last one. Karana Patava. Imperfect senses.
Example Prabhupada gives is not being able to see your hand. if there's no-
How do you be able to see your hand when it's dark?
The sun is
Yeah, Prabhupada gives this example in another place. We think, you look at the sun, like a child may look at the sun, think it's a fruit. Actually, there's a story of Hanuman thinking like that. Anyways, when he was young. So Karana Patava, imperfect senses. So these are the 4 defects in acquiring knowledge. And so why do we accept the other pramanas? As long as they're based on Shabda. Okay, then what did we see?
stages of understanding.
Okay, so what are the stages of understanding? It's a little bit complicated one.
Pratyaksha, Paroksha.
Pratyaksha? Pratyaksha?
Write it down. Paroksha.
What is Pratyaksha?
Direct experience.
Direct perception. What does that mean?
From the senses.
From the senses, whatever you can.
From the senses? Yeah. Huh?
Experimental knowledge also.
Experimental knowledge. So and it direct perception. So Pratyaksha. Then
Paroksha.
Paroksha. What is Paroksha?
Authority.
Hearing from authorities. What does hearing from authority mean?
Hearing from anyone that you consider to be reliable. Anyone that you consider to be reliable. Prabhupada uses that. You hear from the radio.
Yeah. You hear from the radio. You consider that as an authoritative source. Right? Prabhupada gives this example that if you want to know the radio program guide,
Right.
the best place to go is to go to the radio, is to ask the radio station authority. You can sit here and speculate what the next program might be, but better to just get the guide. Prabhupada said this saves time. This is a point that he makes for Shabda actually. Shabda Praman saves time. Anyways, we will come to that later. So, Paroksha means hearing from authorities. So, okay, well then, what is the third one?
Aparoksha.
Aparoksha. What is Aparoksha?
Like realizing experiment.
Okay, realizing,
And then like the scientists experiment.
realize. So you contemplate, you reflect, you realize like this. So, okay, then what's after that?
Adoksha.
Adokshaja. What is Adokshaja?
Cannot perceive by the senses.
Beyond the senses.
Beyond the
Beyond the
senses.
experimental knowledge.
Beyond the senses. And Aprakrita?
Transcendental.
Aprakrita is transcendental. Transcendental reality. Actually, that's what it is. Aprakrita is transcendental reality. Okay, so can these stages of understanding be elaborated for the materialist and for the devotee? For the materialist first.
Only for the first.
Only the first, yeah.
How?
Because they're experimental and they're based on the material.
They don't go beyond sense perception, so they don't.
They don't go beyond sense. So no, after Pratyaksha finished.
No, they
They're
experiment
realizing
and they think that maybe it's like this, maybe it's like that.
realizing as far
You
as
know.
they go.
No, they make an
Okay,
experiment.
can you explain it step by step, the way it was done?
So,
Okay.
are you talking about Aparoksha? The way
I'm talking about the stages for the
Okay,
materialist.
So they see that example we got the COVID-19. They see the experiencing that okay, this has such and such effect. They look into the microscope. Then like the materialists, they hear the scientists are saying like this, scientists are saying like that. Then when an Aparoksha, then what happens is that then they start speculating. Maybe it is caused by this, maybe it's caused by
Right.
that. And then sometimes they're right.
Right.
And most of the time.
So that's it. And in Aparoksha, that's the stage where just by speculation, just by logical reasoning, a person seeking truth beyond just the reality of the material world can realize that he is not the body, he is spirit soul. This much he can realize. And he can understand that there is the existence of Supreme also. This much he can realize. But above that, he cannot find anything else. He can come to, just like Buddha, he came to the conclusion that the material world is a miserable place. How? Simply by these three stages, that's all. He went through these three stages and finished. So Buddhism basically stops with the third stage, that's all. That's the highest spiritual attainment of Buddhism, is Aparoksha. Right? And the so-called spiritual movements like veganism don't even go up to that level. There's no realization, that's it. Actually, there is no authority also, it is just sense perception. So, means what is the authority? Anyways. So, okay, what about the transcendentalists or the Vaishnava? How does the Vaishnava go through these stages?
They hear from Shruti.
Well, explain it step by step. Okay.
Well, from Shabda they hear from the Vedic knowledge,
Okay.
and then they're able to experience what they've heard through sense perception.
No, you're mixing it up. The first, what is first? What? Someone else. Come on.
Come on, Keshav, say something. This way I'm not everything.
No one has any idea how this things.
He's sleeping.
So the devotee has direct perception, or so they see the process of devotional service, and they hear from authority, and hear from the sadhus.
What do they have perception of? This is what I want to know.
Devotional service.
No.
Of Krishna.
No,
Directly Krishna. Krishna.
Come on, something very obvious that a devotee has perception of.
the Harinam Sankirtan.
Prabhuji.
Oh, the book.
Bro, come on, let me say.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bro, I'll tell you. Vishayavani Vartanti Nirahara.
What is that?
Like the basic principle, which is that we're not this body, but the spirit soul.
That's pretty close. There's one thing that encourages all transcendentalists. I already mentioned this just right now previously.
Material world is full of suffering.
Material world is full of suffering.
You didn't say that.
This is where a devotee perceives. This is what a devotee. Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam. This is pratyaksha. This is pratyaksha. One has to see this. See, until a devotee understands that the material world is suffering, his hearing from transcendental authorities will not be based on pure devotional service. So obviously there is a little bit of, there is some hearing, and then there's perceiving, and then there's hearing. All these stages happen. But you see, even when people approach Krishna consciousness, they understand, I am suffering, I need to find something, to find some relief. So that's when you become a seeker. Is when you want to seek beyond just sense enjoyment. So pratyaksha. Then
So, wouldn't you say that the devotee they experience the anarthas going away? That you were saying, I'm chanting and
but yes. So as I said, all these stages, it's not that once you perceive after pratyaksha, then you just hear. It's not one stage after another like blocks, but the stages happen simultaneously. But definitely, there is some perception first, or other perceptions. You say they saw the Harinam Sankirtan, but they saw Harinam Sankirtan, but that doesn't mean anything. They saw the devotees being happy. Then they think, oh, they're so happy. Why can't I be so happy? Something they must have perceived for them to catch on to Krishna consciousness. So this is pratyaksha. Then comes
hearing from
paroksha. What is hearing from authorities?
attending Bhagavatam class, reading Prabhupada's books.
Can you be a little more specific? Hearing from Bhagavatam, yes. But there's authority means what? Guru. Hearing from Guru. Hearing from Guru. That's what it means. Adav Guru Ashraya. So you first take shelter of Guru. So then Then what else?
Aparoksha.
What is aparoksha?
They have practical realization.
That's when they realize that my anarthas are going, and they see. They do see. But when they see that, they have a realization. That realization is aparoksha. So it's not just seeing, there's a realization that is attached to that seeing. So similarly, when you hear the Bhagavatam, but now it's not just hearing. When you hear the Bhagavatam, there is some realization also that comes. You walk out of the Bhagavatam class, you feel that you've realized something. You read Srila Prabhupada's books, you've learned something very, very important and very useful for your own spiritual life that you can apply, that turns to be an inspiration for you to preach, inspiration for you to practice. This is realization. It's not just reading anymore. It's not information gathering. So then, what is adokshaja?
Krishna reveals his different things.
Right. So this is when a devotee has started to get rid of his anarthas and started to awaken his true spiritual nature. Then he starts to understand Krishna. And when he starts to understand Krishna, he starts to understand Krishna as he is. How so many contradictions in Krishna, all the contradictions in Krishna can be simultaneously resolved in the personality of Krishna in the most inconceivable manner. He understands the personality of Godhead. He realizes this. So obviously this is not just a theoretical thing, but this is after this is accompanied with the stage of aparoksha realization. So this is adokshaja. Then aprakrita. What is aprakrita? So Krishna's pastimes, and the devotee starts to engage in such pastimes and participate at a very high level. So these are the stages of understanding, and Prabhupada said that that will take time. You will have to practice that. So Prabhupada gives this in an initiation lecture, which means, try to understand where you're heading to. The initiation, you're literally just beginning it right now. So, okay, all right. So today we will touch upon the subject of Pratyaksha Pramana. Mundane and transcendental sense perception. Not just mundane sense perception, but transcendental also. Okay? So, Pratyaksha Pramana. Okay. So, what is the definition of Pratyaksha Pramana? Pratyaksha means Prati Aksha. Aksha means eyes or senses. Prati means near or through. Bring near or through. So, for instance, the word Prati also means repeated, or Prati means every. So, Prati means near or through, Aksha means eye or senses. When one of our senses contacts its object and our mind chooses to give the received sensation attention, knowledge is created. Why is it that the mind has to give attention?
Comprehend.
Yeah, otherwise you will not comprehend. For instance, you're absorbed. How many people were bookworms before they came to Krishna consciousness? Not even after coming to Krishna consciousness you can experience. Anyone who's a bookworm? You're a bookworm. Have you ever experienced, you're reading, someone's talking to you, you never even heard what they say?
Yeah. It happens to me still.
Yeah, so, and after coming to Krishna consciousness, hopefully sometime we were so absorbed in Srila Prabhupada's books that we had that experience also.
It's like being on the subway and reading.
So,
For me, it's the opposite.
So, how does that happen? How does that happen? It doesn't mean that your ears did not hear. Your mind didn't give its attention. So that's it. This is how mind has so much control over the senses. Therefore, if you control the mind, you control the senses. Because if the mind chooses to ignore a particular sense, the sense becomes practically, powerless. Okay. So when the senses come in contact with the sense object and the mind gives that sensation that is created attention, then knowledge is created. Okay? Now, divisions. There are two divisions, external and internal. External through the senses and internal through the mind. So even the mind, for instance, in dreams, by emotions and pain, we experience so many things. And they're real. Like when you feel angry, it's real. You actually feel angry. You're pretty upset about something. And the feeling is real. It's experiential. Your body heats up. All sorts of thoughts start to run in one's mind. The heartbeat increases. So this is real. Or similarly, when you face anxiety, it's a mental thing, but then your stomach starts to churn. Maybe sometimes you have the experience that you're too much in anxiety, you have to use the toilet. So physical reactions to mental experiences. So these are all pratyaksha. Okay. So what is the validity of pratyaksha pramana? What is the ultimate validity?
That your experience is your validity.
No, the ultimate validity is when it supports Shabda. That's when Pratyaksha is actually valid. But on a more mundane level, what is Pratyaksha valid about? It is the only means of empiric knowledge on the material plane. What does this mean? What does it mean? Anyone has any idea what empiric knowledge means?
Experimental.
Yeah,
Okay, experimental, little something more different.
Based on like your own experiences.
Yeah, well, something more specific. Empiric. What does empiric mean?
Gross? Is that on the gross platform?
No, not well. Yes, empiric is obviously gross, but something that is quantifiable, measurable, quantifiable.
Yeah.
The Pratyaksha Praman is very quantifiable. It's much more quantifiable. You can say, you might think, what are things that you can quantify? Okay, obviously we can count the number of people in this room. This is Pratyaksha Pramana. Very easy to quantify. Can you think of things that might be rather difficult to quantify? For instance,
Grains are in a bag, though, right?
no, that's limitation of the senses.
So
That you cannot count
feelings.
the number of grains because you are limited. You don't know how to do that.
Feelings.
So feelings, but even feelings, you can say, I feel somewhat happy.
But you can't.
I feel so happy. The point is there is some quantity here. That's what I mean. That it's the only means of empiric knowledge, that all types of pratyaksha pramana is empirical of some sort. Because it's experiential. It's the most experiential type of knowledge.
Like, would we consider that scientists
Definitely on the material platform.
Scientists call 96% of the universe as dark matter because they can't figure anything out? Is that considered to be like something you can't?
96%.
No, that's their theory.
But you can't
It is
conceive of
quantified.
it.
Huh?
You can't
It
like.
is quantified.
No, but they don't understand anything, so they.
So I don't get this point. What is you
no,
talking
that
about?
they can't perceive of it.
That's
So it's not. It's not
Or somehow.
empiric knowledge.
So they don't perceive it, and they're speculating what might be there. They're saying 96%. They haven't seen 96% of the universe. They don't even know 1% of the universe. How could they say what that is? I mean, the scientists can say anything. What? Someone else raised their hands. Okay. Anyways, so it's the only means of empiric knowledge. Okay. So that's why pratyaksha. This is where pratyaksha has its most validity. Is that it's quantifiable, and quantities are used in one's life every single day. Okay? Then, all other pramanas extend from pratyaksha. How do we understand that?
Extend, is that it?
Extend from pratyaksha.
Because you have to have perception of something to go on.
Okay? Yes.
You have to hear shabda from someone.
Huh?
You have to hear the words that the guru is speaking.
You have to hear shabda. Yes.
To read the
But
books.
you have to have faith. In order for you to have faith in what someone is saying, you have to experience it.
You have to experience it. Okay. You see, if you're dull matter, shabda will not enter you. Right? You have to have sense perception of sorts. Even if we were to say, oh yes, even the animals can get liberated by hearing shabda, transcendental, by hearing the holy name, still they have senses, therefore. So therefore all pramanas extend from pratyaksha. So
does that mean pratyaksha is always involved in some way?
yeah, pratyaksha is always involved in some way. And therefore the Vaishnavas accept it as pramana, because how can you avoid it? You cannot avoid pratyaksha. And we will see, you cannot avoid anumana either, you cannot avoid aitihya also. You have to have all these. These are all involved in day-to-day lives. Day-to-day lives, we have tradition in however transcendental I may become, there are certain characteristics that we carry along with tradition. And therefore, all of this must be connected to shabda. Otherwise, it becomes sentimental. It becomes without reason. Therefore, the Vaishnavas accept these four pramanas. The three, and connect it with shabda. Although shabda is what they accept, but it is rather illogical to just completely. How can you reject pratyaksha? You can't completely reject pratyaksha. You have to engage pratyaksha also. Okay. Therefore, the third point, one who insists on distrusting pratyaksha praman cannot discuss philosophy nor participate in any meaningful aspect of life. If you distrust your senses completely,
Kind of like the Mayavadis, how they
no. If you distrust pratyaksha, you're just a madman. You're just like, there's nothing you can do.
Skeptics.
Even worse. This is like skepticism on the platform of insanity, because it doesn't make any sense. You have to start being skeptical of yourself being skeptical. So where do you go with this?
No.
You'll just go crazy. So that's what. You cannot distrust pratyaksha praman. It's impossible. You have to have some. But the main validity is when it supports shabda. So, for instance, pratyaksha praman, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the Krishna consciousness movement will spread all over the world. We have pratyaksha praman that Srila Prabhupada was the empowered acharya who executed that. Pratyaksha. There's no doubt about it. There's no challenge. There is no equal.
Who can
No one can deny. So this is Pratyaksha that supports Shabda. It's very visible, very clear. Srila Prabhupada is a very special Acharya. Anyone with some level of intelligence can easily accept this. So that's an example of Pratyaksha validating Shabda Praman. Okay, what are the limits of Pratyaksha Praman?
We have imperfect sense.
Yes?
Like contradictions?
Huh?
Contradictions?
What do you mean?
Like for example, we might find like some contradictions in like maybe from, I forgot the term, but like coming from authority, and then we might be limited to be able to like understand it.
So how are we limited? Yes, there's some limitation. Obviously, that's what we're discussing in Pratyaksha Praman. What is the limitation? Our senses are imperfect. The senses are imperfect. So, Pratyaksha Praman is limited, is reliable as long as the mind and senses are functioning properly. You see, for instance, if you are color blind, already the senses are imperfect. And if you actually have a material imperfection in the material senses, then your ability to gain Pratyaksha becomes even more limited. Or say someone is mentally retarded, then also Pratyaksha becomes limited. The ability that they are able to grasp becomes limited. Okay, so then what are the other limitations of Pratyaksha?
Your senses are only able to perceive, like, you know, you're the Kshetra Gyan of like wherever you're at, but I can't perceive what you're perceiving or what someone in China is perceiving.
Right.
I can only see what's in this
Right,
room.
so then there is the limitation of the senses itself, that the senses can see only so much. Like, oh, we're talking about this virus, but you can't even see it. But it's affecting the whole world, but you can't see it. So, okay, what else? It's the main limitation of Pratyaksha.
Being conditioned by nature's laws.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar to what he had stated. It's the main limitation with Pratyaksha.
That you cannot experience what's beyond the ability of your senses.
What is that?
Transcendental.
You can, yes, it's limited to material things. Pratyaksha Praman is limited to material things when one is on the, obviously we are discussing about mundane Pratyaksha over here. So, until you have transcendental senses, you cannot experience transcendental reality. So, it is limited to the material sphere. Okay, so then the point that, okay, then what else? So, we spoke about how the senses are limited to space. That is, it's limited to a particular area. There's another limitation with Pratyaksha.
Time.
Time. What?
Like for example, we won't be able to see the sun set until a particular time.
Right. Pratyaksha is just now. If you depend only on Pratyaksha, so if I see someone eating, then okay, now I know he's eating. But I don't know, I cannot, if I'm not physically present before him, I don't know if he ate previously. I have to judge on the basis of either Shabda or Anumana. But, Pratyaksha I have to see. So it's limited to the present time. It cannot extend into the past or the future. So Pratyaksha is limited. It's directly what you see at this minute. So, and then the fourth point is that the world view is very limited without Anumana. You have to combine Pratyaksha with some level of logic to be able to get a world view, to get a perception. With just Pratyaksha, if you just live, there's not much you can do. And hardly any civilization has ever lived like that. Anumana has always been a part of human civilization. But you can see in animal life, Pratyaksha is all that they care about. More or less. Yeah, they're not thinking, like the geese in the pond over there, down next to the barn. They're having a great time in life. They don't think, I don't know, tomorrow will I get my meal? Day after tomorrow will I get my meal? Do I have to go and buy groceries? Nothing like that. No logic. It's just, when they feel hungry, they go and search food. They find it, they eat it, that's all. When they feel like it, they have sex. When they feel like it, they sleep. When they feel like it, they make all these weird sounds. And so like this. So animals are primarily on the Pratyaksha. But the civilization doesn't exist. There is no worldview. Animals don't have a worldview. the tortoise is not thinking. There's a world view, nothing like that. Huh? Like it's only when we have our discussions we think a frog in the well. The frog in the it's more of an analogy. The frog is not thinking anything. So yeah, okay. And then it offers only limited support to Shabda. Pratyaksha offers support to Shabda, and it's very good. But the support it can offer to Shabda is limited until no.
Until you have spiritual sense.
Until you have spiritual senses. Then Pratyaksha, and basically once you get transcendental senses, then everything, all the pramanas are the same. Okay. And then the sixth and last very important point is that it by itself will not give knowledge of self-realization. You have to have at least anumana involved. Just Pratyaksha alone will never lead to self-realization. Okay? All right. Okay, so now we will come to another aspect of Pratyaksha Pramana, which is called transcendental sense perception. Vaidusha Pratyaksha. This is transcendental sense perception. So Krishna states this in the Bhagavad Gita. Famous verse. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyam. So Krishna uses the word Pratyaksha there. He uses the word perceiving. So what does Krishna mean? The translation goes like this. This knowledge is the king of all education. It is the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. So Prabhupada very interestingly translates this perception of the self by realization. As it translates, by realization. Okay. Now in the purport, Prabhupada writes, I have taken the section of the purport here. Prabhupada said, it is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. And Prabhupada gives an example. This direct result is actually perceived. We have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of material contamination. This is actually seen. Right? This is transcendental sense perception, Vaidusha Pratyaksha. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities, as well as, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. All of us have experienced this. And that experience is Pratyaksha. Right? And then Prabhupada continues. He says, by associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra says this, Prakashascha karmanya abhyasat. If one is engaged simply in acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically and he can understand. This is called Pratyaksha, directly perceived. So, Pratyaksha on the transcendental platform is revealed. Why? Why does it have to be revealed? Because it is beyond the perception of our senses. It is beyond our grasp. So, it is descending knowledge. And that mercy descends from Krishna through the medium of Guru and Vaishnavas. And therefore it is revealed to oneself. But that revelation is perception. Now I see. I see. This is why when we understand something, why do we say I see? Because it is a perception. So, this is called Pratyaksha, this is called directly perceived. There is another quote of Srila Prabhupada in a lecture in December 14, 1972. Pratyaksha, Krishna conscious knowledge is so perfect that Pratyaksha avagamam, you can directly perceive how far you are making progress. Prabhupada gives very famous example that you do not require to take certificate from others. whether you are progressing or not, you will understand yourself. The example is given, just like a hungry man is eating. So, as he is going on eating, he is getting strength. His hunger is being satisfied. So he can understand himself. Nobody needs to certify. Now you are satisfied. Similarly, bhakti, Krishna consciousness is so perfect that pratyaksha avagamam, one can understand directly. Bhakti pareshana bhava viraktir anyatra cha. What is the translation?
That, once you start performing devotional service, all your answers naturally go away.
Right. That advancement in Krishna consciousness is simultaneously coupled with
Going away.
disgust for material sense gratification, or basically anything other than viraktir anyatra cha, everything else. Not only is he disgusted with sense gratification, he is disgusted with karma, jnana, yoga, everything. He is only interested in bhakti. This is direct perception, Prabhupada is saying. Paresha anubhava. See, interesting, paresha anubhava. Anubhava means experience, but Prabhupada is comparing that with pratyaksha. This is transcendental pratyaksha, because it is experienced. Okay. Then, this is now we are going into the stages, understanding of samadhi. Because in the stage of samadhi, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj, in 4th canto, chapter 9, text 2, the form of the Lord which was brilliant like lightning, in which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed. His meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. So Dhruva Maharaj saw Pratyaksha. He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead right in front of his eyes. And Prabhupada gives a really nice purport here. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. One who has, a saintly person who has developed love of Godhead by devotional service, always sees the Lord's transcendental form as Shyama Sundara. This Shyama Sundara form of the Lord within the heart of a devotee is not imaginary. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shyama Sundar he has taught of during the entire course of his devotional life. During the entire course of his devotional service. This is Pratyaksha. Right? So this beautiful form of Krishna, Shyama Sundara. This is what we should see. We should hope to perceive someday. Okay. Then this is the famous. This is the section of verses that talk about samadhi in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 20 to 23. Yato paramatte chittam nirudam yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati sukam atyantikam yattad buddhigrahyam atindriyam veti yatra na chaivayam stitas chalati tattvataha yam ladhva chaparam labham manyate nadikam tataha yasmin stito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. So the word that's specifically used over here is Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. Sees the self. Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So this is samadhi. In the stage of samadhi, one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can see the self situated in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, another verse. Bhagavatam 1.5.38. Itimurtya bidhanena mantramurtim amurtikam yajate yajna purusham sa samyak darshanaf puman. Famous Harinam verse also. Chanting the holy names. He who is the actual seer, he is the actual seer who worships the form of the transcendental sound vibration, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. It's interesting. It is said, iti murti abhidanena mantra murtim amurtikam. Mantra murtim, one who has a form of sound, mantra murtim, amurtikam, no form, or basically no material form. But, and then it says, sa samyak darshanah puman, you see. So how is it all possible? How will the Mayavadis explain this? They'll just say, oh, it's formless, it's Shabda Brahman. But no. Here the Bhagavatam clearly says, he is seer. What does he see? Mantra Murti. Mantra Murti means what? What is it? What does Srila Prabhupada translate here as Mantra Murti?
The form of
The transcendental sound representation. But then the word that's very important over here is Yajna Purusham. The word that's used, there's another word that's used in the same word. It says no form, Murtikam. Then it says Yajna Purusham. It says Purusha, which basically means personality. Yajna Purusha is who? Vishnu. And Mantra Murtim, Amurtingam. So he worships Yajna Purusha, who is Mantra Murti, who is represented in the form in transcendental sound vibration. And such a person who worships Vishnu like that is the actual seer. This is basically how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipped in Kali Yuga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is worshipped through the means of vibrating the transcendental holy name, and from the transcendental holy name, Nama, Guna, Rupa, Leela, Dhama, everything is revealed. Everything is revealed. So therefore he becomes the actual seer. Or he who is the seer because he sees the purpose of the most supreme of all religious performances. Right? Okay. Then, last and famous verse quote here. Tatshraddha dana munayon yana vairagya yuktaya pashyan atmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya. So, very important. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from Vedanta Shruti. From Vedanta. See, this says that, there are many things. I'm not going to explain the verse completely, but the point is, Pashyan Atmani Chatmanam. Pashyanti Atmani Chatmanam means he sees. What does he see? What is Atmani Cha Atmanam? What is Atmani Cha Chatmanam?
He sees himself in relationship with Krishna, the Supreme.
Right. He sees, and Prabhupada writes here in the purport, therefore, devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti, Purana and Pancharatra authorities. The make show of devotional service should at once be rejected.
The make show.
An unauthorized devotee should never be recognized as a pure devotee by assimilation of such messages. What messages? Right. That devotional service is established on the principles of Shruti, Smriti and Purana, plus the knowledge that make sure devotional service should be rejected. This is what Prabhupada is referring here. That not only do you know what is to be performed, you also know what is not to be performed. By assimilation of such messages, one can see the all-pervading localized aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his own self. That is, Paramatma is situated within oneself. Oneself, the self or us, is called Atma. So, Pashyan Atmani, within the Atma, Atmanam, Cha Atmanam. This is the super soul, situated within everything. This is called Samadhi. Okay? Alright. So, I will stop here because it's 8:30 and if I start this section, I won't finish it.
We usually go until 9 every day, right?
Yeah, but I won't finish this section by 9.
Okay, we can do half, right?
No.
Can you do a
Finish
workshop?
one section and then.
No.
So you want to
Any questions, comments?
Bro, come on, let's do it until 9 o'clock. What's the big deal?
No, bro.
Yes.
I got it.
No, there has to be time for discussion.
So if the senses are imperfect, the knowledge you derive from sense perception is imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you also perceive Shabda by the sense perception.
Right?
So how is it perfect?
So the Shabda that you perceive through sense perception, it's not that, this is why we discussed the point. If you completely distrust the senses, then you can't, see, if you distrust everything that you hear from the ear, then what are you going to do? When there is intelligible sound that is given from transcendental authorities, then that sound vibration is perfect.
As long as you trust
And you hear it.
understood.
You hear it, it's intelligible, it's clear. And then, if you follow it, you see it also. You see Pratyaksa avagamam, therefore devotional service is perceived. You perceive advancement. Do you understand? If you completely distrust the material senses, then there's nothing that you can go, there's nowhere you can go with that. So, it's not that because the senses are imperfect, they are imperfect in every regard. Do you understand?
A little bit. 'Cause I hear
The
this-
senses are imperfect, but it doesn't mean that the senses, imperfect doesn't mean the senses are useless. If you say that transcendental Shabda cannot be received through the senses, then that means the senses for all practical purposes are useless. Right? But that is not the point. It's not that the senses are useless. Therefore, we defined validity of the senses. So there is validity of the senses, and there is an invalidity where there are only certain things you can hear. And from those certain things, therefore transcendent, in Shabda Praman, we will understand how the transcendental sound vibration is made accessible for the conditioned souls, because it is transcendental. This is a subject of great discussion among the rishis. How can something, so for instance, this is discussed in the Upanishads, how can that which can never be described by words be described?
Yeah, that's the question in the
This is the question that is addressed in, where is it addressed? Prayers of the Vedas personified. Prayers of the Vedas personified address this very question, this very point.
And the whole chapter.
And the whole chapter is on this. The point is, you don't neglect the senses completely. The senses, the Vedas, personified Vedas establish that the senses are there only to receive transcendental knowledge.
Wow.
They're made only for this purpose.
Well, they're made for that, really. What's the verse?
Yeah.
Actually, there's one. There's
Jumping
verse
up and
in
down.
the 10th canto, and then there's another in another verse in 1-32. Yata Shavahito Vani Darishveka Soyonishu Aneva Badi Vishvatma Bhuteshu Chatata Puman. So the Lord is a super soul who pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood. So he appears to be of many varieties, so it's one without a second. So this people may wonder what. But then Prabhupada writes. Sorry, let me just come here. So there you go. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, as fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of a man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, a spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach a spiritual master with receptive ears only. Thus, divine existence is gradually realized. And then he says, the difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. So there's another verse from the Bhagavatam, I don't remember. But the ear, only through the ear, transcendental sound can enter. So ear is not like any, because there's one disciple of Bhakti Sastri, Thakur, he was saying that, the reason the ear, it's separated from all the other senses. When you're eating, your eyes see it, your nose smells it, your tongue tastes it, and all these things. But your ear is always separated from most of the mundane sense objects, most of the sense objects other than the ear, because the ear is actually used for transcendental realization.
There's many other explanations in this regard. For instance, a sleeping man is best woken up by through sound. And in this way, actually, the ear is what we use even in the mundane realm to grasp things that are beyond the realm of the other senses. It is through the ear only that you access what is beyond our limited purview of the world. You can say, well, I read the newspaper, but that is also hearing. Because you're hearing. The mind voice runs when you read. And you can see a picture. I can show you a picture of a temple, some temple in India. You will see, oh, it's a temple. But you don't know anything more about that. So if you want to know, oh, this is Srirangam. This is the Srirangam temple. Then I have to tell you, someone has to tell you this is Srirangam. Then immediately you're accessed, Or you hear, Mayapur is like this, Vrindavan, then desire comes. So it's all by hearing. Even materialists also. So same thing.
Isn't there some anumana involved as well?
Sorry?
Because it's not just your hearing, but there's also...
There is anumana, but the point is that it's all accessed through the ear. The point is...
It starts through the ear.
It's ear, but the point we're trying to make here is how the ears specifically are designed for us to access transcendental reality. But they can access transcendental reality only when the sound that enters the ear comes from a reliable authority. So this is basically a very, very important theme that's covered in several parts of the Bhagavatam and like this. And one doesn't have to believe it blindly. That's the point we say. Oh, you don't have to believe. Chant Hare Krishna, see how you feel. You don't have to believe us. Just chant. See how you feel. So then there's Pratyaksa. Then how can you deny? So that's how transcendental reality becomes accessible to a conditioned soul by mercy. Because the argument is, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot make transcendental reality accessible to conditioned souls, then He is not supreme.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada gives the deity is transcendental. Why? He can convert matter into transcendental. Otherwise, what is the use? Prabhupada said, don't think that marble in the deity is the same as the marble on the floor. It's different. Prabhupada gives these examples. Because if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then we've heard also Prabhupada say, Supreme Personality of Godhead can convert matter into spirit, spirit into matter also. Otherwise, he's not supreme.
There's that verse also from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Lord, in order to be revealed to the conditioned soul, He descends and writes the Puranas and Vedic literature.
Yeah. The Srimad Bhagavatam descended for that specific purpose in Kali Yuga. Is that okay?
There's another in this Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. This is when Narada Muni gives him the mantra. So there in the purport Prabhupada, the prescribed rules as stated here by Narada Muni are that one should accept the mantra through a bona fide spiritual master and hear it in the right ear.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of...
in Puranjana's story also,
exactly.
here.
I'm going to say that in the next one.
King Puranjana mentions how the right ear is used to gain spiritual knowledge. Yes.
I was going to say the aspect of guru is also very important.
Yeah.
Because hearing is, or else, if hearing was enough, then what is the point of guru?
Yeah.
So
the source, yeah.
Guru also makes sure, from a practical perspective, you don't just realize it by yourself, it's with the assistant.
Right.
Guru, he knows, how does he know? Because he himself has realized it, so he knows whether you actually realize it or not.
Yeah.
And he can guide you accordingly.
Yeah, because on that, Prabhupada in the introduction to Ishopanishad, he himself writes that the two qualities of the bona fide spiritual master is that he must have rightly heard the Vedic knowledge from a right source.
That's one quality. And
the other one is firmly established and fixed in Brahman.
Right. Okay, any other questions, comments? No? Okay, so tomorrow we will see Anumana Pramana and
can you go back to the divisions
divisions of Pratyaksha?
Yes.
Just two. Oh, you didn't understand this? Simple. Pratyaksha, external, through the senses. What do you gain through the senses? Oh, you see a fire. You hear a bell. You feel the temperature to be cold. So that's skin. Then, what is that? Nose, you can smell. You can smell something very fragrant. Smell a nice, sweet-smelling flower that's been offered to Krishna. And what did I leave out here? Taste. You can taste. Different varieties of foods. So that is all external, by the senses. Right? There's actually, that's further expanded, how, even the genitals are included and things like that. So, yeah. But genital, it's clubbed into sense, skin. Yeah.
So, is that why that when the more you come to the mode of goodness, etc., the less you try to enjoy with the senses, and the more you like to enjoy with the mind. Because we see as
could be said, because there are in Madhurya Kadambini, it is described the different levels of koshas, different levels of consciousness. So you have Annamaya kosha, then you have Pranamaya kosha, then you have Jnanamaya or Vijnanamaya kosha, then you have Anandamaya kosha. We touched 5, yeah. No, we touched only 4.
No, we touched 5. We touched
Annamaya, Pranamaya,
then Jnana,
Jnanamaya, Vijnana, and then Anandamaya kosha. So these 5 things you have. So you will see that Annamaya kosha is gross. Yeah. Gross sense enjoyment. Straight up.
Like animal.
It's just about the belly basically. That's it. And then Pranamaya, little more advanced. Economic development, things like this. You have a little more. So that's when it goes a little bit to the mental platform. And Vijnanamaya is even more.
Jnana is more than Vijnana.
So yeah, Jnana is fully on the mental platform. All these scientists, they're theorizing.
Jnana is aparoksha.
Theorizing.
Jnana would be aparoksha, right?
Jnana would be aparoksha.
And then after that, so Vijnana would be adokshaja.
Vijnana would be.
And then Anandamaya would be.
Anandamaya would be, yeah, Prakriti.
Because that makes sense, because in Brihad Bhagavatam also, when Sanatana Goswami...
Vijnana is when it becomes a science, where Krishna consciousness is not theory anymore. It becomes, it's a reality that one is experiencing. It's like science. Just like, if you put more wood logs into this fire burner, then it emanates more heat. That's it. It's just a science, a simple science. So similarly, Krishna consciousness becomes a science like that. Becomes very experiential, very practical.
So, Sanatana Goswami is describing how Gopakumara is going through all these different planets. And then he reaches one of the planets, but I don't know exactly which planet he reaches, but it was Janaloka, Tapaloka, one of these. And there, he sees that they're not performing activities or doing anything like that. They're just sitting and meditating. And he asked one of the sages, "Why are you doing like this?" He said, you think you can actually have some realization through your senses, but through your mind you can realize
much more. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? No? All right. So tomorrow what we will be doing is we will cover Anumana. Hopefully that will not take one whole session, but and then we could touch upon Shabda. Shabda is huge.
Amazing.
Shabda is pretty big. And why not? All right.
Are you still going?
Okay.
the test is going to be on the
So,
inside.
okay, so
after
basically
class-
you're
it's
saying
after
today,
class,
today
right?
after this afternoon we're going to have Almana, right? Instead of the reading.
No,
Yeah, you think.
That's what he said,
no,
bro.
Didn't
What
say
do you
that.
mean?
No.
Today we're having Anum today, right?
no. Next session is tomorrow.
Have you made the test
Next
already?
session is today.
What? Baba, these fellows
Yo,
are
this
interested
guy,
in
bro,
tests.
you know what he did yesterday?
Hare
He went
Krishna.
Krishna Prasad, they're trying to cheat, bro. They
All
went
right.
to Mayapur, they went to the Mayapur test thing and all, and they failed.
Big mistake, bro.
Dude,
All
this
Big
guy,
mistake.
Okay.
they're cheating, bro.
Thank you very much.
I'm like the good student who.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, one thing. Oh, stop. Stop.
It's a close,
I forgot to mention a little bit about Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit, Prabhu's appearance day. So Sri Gadadhar Pandit is the manifestation of Srimati Radharani in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, and we worship him when we worship the Panchatattva as Sri Advaita Gadadhara. So I'd like to, in respect of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, I'd like to explain the point that his name is pronounced as Gadadhar, not Gadadhara. Gadadhara means one who holds a donkey, because Gadhe in Hindi basically is an abusive word which means donkey. So Dhara is one who holds. Lakshmi Dhara. You know, Lakshmi Dhara means one who holds Lakshmi Devi on his lap. Or Vidyadhara, one who has Vidya, one who has knowledge. So what is that? How do you say? Gadadhara. Gadadhara means one who holds a donkey, which is not who we are worshipping. In Panchatattva, you have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have Nityananda Prabhu, you have Advaita Acharya, you have Gadadhar Pandit, not some donkey holder, and then Srivas Thakur. So it's so Gadadhara. Gada. So Gadadhara. Gadadhara. So this is, and Gadadhar Pandit is stated in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that the associates of Gadadhar Pandit are all emanations of Lord Krishna's internal energy. There's a quote that Kali also sent today in the he posted it on Facebook actually. So it's a famous quote in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Gadadhar Pandit loved reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. He used to read it every single day, and the famous incident of Vallabhacharya finally managing to read the Srimad Bhagavatam to Gadadhar Pandit is explained. Gadadhar Pandit was very attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Where did he live? He lived at the Tota Gopinath Mandir. He had taken Kshetra Sannyas. And he lived at the Tota Gopinath Mandir in Puri. And so there are many pastimes connected to Gadadhar Pandit, and devotees who would like to read can kindly refer the Chaitanya Charitamrita and do so. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Gadadhar Pandit ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvascha patitanam pavanebhyo.
Alright, slow eaters.
So it
Know where
is
to eat.
here, right?
Otherwise you're gonna get beat.
Oh!